Hey guys, so I am live on Facebook and on Instagram. So I have my computer for my Facebook and I have my phone for my Instagram. So, I've been going through a lot. And even though I am very honest and real with you guys and my own journey, there are some things that I feel that I've been keeping to myself a little bit too much. I'm going to say hey to everybody now since I'm on both places. It's just a little confusing if I start talking to people on both places, but I see you guys. If you have questions for me, want to send me a message, go ahead and we can chat later. But I just really wanted to come on here today and talk about what's been going on with me. I kind of had a hard talk with my husband today and really laid all out what's been going on with me and why I've been struggling, because he was asking me if work had been stressful. And of course work is stressful. Work is always stressful. I've been at this new job for about 5 weeks now, I think. And I got through the shortened Thanksgiving week. I got through time when my coworkers were on vacation. I got through all that. And I feel that I'm doing fairly well. My boss has told me I'm doing well. So yeah, there's stress at work, but that's really not what's been going on. So I've been trying to get a handle on what's going on in my mind because I'm just not sure. So, I've been through a lot in my life. If you don't know my story, you do know my story. I'm going to repeat it. Sorry. But I was adopted when I was a month old from an agency in Racine. So I was adopted when I was 1 month old. My brother was adopted when I was 5 years old. So happy birthday. It's not my birthday. My birthday is until February, but thanks. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. Have a lot to be thankful for, even though I've been going through all this, and I'm going to explain what I have to be thankful for. So, I was adopted when I was a month old. My brother was adopted when I was 5. I had a really, really hard time with that. All adopted kids, a lot of adopted kids have this feeling that we weren't enough for our biological parents, and that's why they gave them up. Me, I really know nothing about my adoption story. It was a closed adoption. It was the 80s. It was a Catholic organization. That is just how it is. That's just what it was. And so I really don't know a lot. And so then when my parents adopted my brother, I was like, okay, so I'm not enough for my parents and they need another kid. That was honestly 5-year-old mentality. Things I never really addressed until my 20s, actually 30s. But so that was always a problem for me. I always had issues with low self-esteem. When I was 13, I started emotional eating. I started binging. I started getting fast food and hiding the bags. I would eat a whole bag of chips and I would hide it. Just really being ashamed of my binging and, just the way some people are brought up. You are strong and you don't ask for help. And, that's a big part of my story, is that I've had issues with emotional eating, issues with binging. And that's, not on anybody. That's just me. That's just my own stuff that I never addressed. So, when I graduated from high school, I went off to college and I went, I went far away for school. I went 5 hours away. I was like, nobody's going to know me. I was deathly shy. In high school, middle school, I was super, super shy. And, I figured, I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to be somewhere new. Nobody's going to know me. I can be a whole brand new person. And that was kind of my mentality when I went to school. I wanted to be a horse trainer. There was a time in my life I wanted to be a vet. I wanted to go to Madison for vet school. And, that just didn't work out. I didn't want to go through the whole vet schooling and testing and all that. I just didn't want to do that. So I was going to be a horse trainer. That's what I was going to do. But school was really hard for me. My parents paid for my college, which is an absolute blessing. They are amazing. But I just don't think that I really appreciated what was being given to me. I just didn't appreciate them enough for everything that they did, because I was the one, once I left, I was goody two shoes. I did everything right. I didn't drink in college. I didn't I dated boys, but that was it. Like, kissing was all that I did. That was just, I went to college a virgin. That is exactly the person I was. So when I went to college and I had pure freedom and I was 5 hours away from my parents, I just did like all the bad things. I became an alcoholic. I experimented with drugs. I was with someone for quite a long time in college, person I thought I was going to marry. It didn't work out. So I kind of went into a tailspin. And that's when the alcoholism started. My super senior semester of school, I actually did not go to one class. I didn't go to a class. I didn't do an assignment. I didn't take a test. I didn't do anything. And obviously, I got kicked out of school in my 5th year of college. I had switched my major a few times. I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I just didn't know what I wanted because I didn't know myself. I didn't know who I really was. And this is something that I have taken a long time to try to figure out who I was. And it has taken till 38, almost 39, to figure out who I really am. And I think I'm even just now figuring it out. Like, seriously, almost 40, and I'm just figuring out who I am. So, I got kicked out of college, so I moved to Minneapolis. I got an apartment. I worked at the airport, and I met this guy. This bad guy that I knew my parents would not approve of. Had tattoos, he dealt drugs, he went to the bar all the time, and that was just the life I had. I would drink all my money away. I would have to ask my parents for money to pay rent. That was just sadly who I was, and I used everybody. I took everything for granted. I had no great gratitude for anyone. I was not thankful for anything. I hated myself. I hated everyone, and I was going to punish everyone who cared about me. And for all of my 20s, after my relationship where I was supposed to get married didn't work out, I just didn't know what to do with myself. I figured nobody loved me, nobody cared about me. I pushed people away, and that continued all the way through actually till my relationship with my husband. So, as a teenager, I did go to therapy. I showed horses at a national level, so I went to, sports therapy to prepare for competition, the anxiety, because I would get anxiety competing. So, when I was 15, I went to therapy and processed that feeling. So, I semi-processed the anxiety, but I didn't process the other stuff, the binging. I didn't process that, the low self-worth. I never processed that. So I just always pushed people away, and that was just always who I was. I was always pushing people away. I didn't want people to get too close. I didn't feel like I deserved it. That was just me. I'm like, I've screwed my life up so much, I don't deserve it. That's how I ended up with this guy who was 8 years older than me, who was going nowhere, who would get fired from jobs because he would get in fights at work because he had anger issues. And, I tried to get away. I took a job actually in Arizona and to train horses to get away, saying, distance will help. And that is just what I thought was what I needed to do. Well, 10 months in Arizona, I was miserable. I needed to come home. Did I come home to my parents? No, I went back to Minnesota to that good-for-nothing guy. And that was a point when that relationship became a deviant relationship. I moved in with him. Our roommates would lose their jobs. They would use their money on drugs. I was ending up paying the rent, paying all the bills. I worked 3 jobs. That I didn't have health insurance. I mean, that was like my mid-20s. Like, I felt like a failure. I got a job working at customer service in the basement of a bank downtown Minneapolis. I worked at the mall at Victoria's Secret. I did some blogging on the side. I just did whatever I could to make some money so we could pay our bills and have food and obviously have alcohol and drugs, because those things were important to me in my 20s or mid-20s. And the relationships just started to become violent. It wasn't just physically violent. The way he talked to me, he emotionally abused me. He made me feel even more worthless, made me feel even more like nobody loved me, nobody wanted me around. And that was like the reality. That was my reality. And I ended up getting pregnant, how that always goes. We were planning to get married. My mom, my dad didn't know anything that was going on. He had basically made me secluded from my friends, from my family. That's just what abusers do. And I got pregnant, and they say they're going to change. They say they're going to change, but obviously without help, he wasn't going to change. And the first time he hit me when I was pregnant, I was done. I packed all my stuff up in my car. I drove from Minneapolis to Lake Geneva and said to my parents, I need to move in with you. I don't know what else to do. This is what's going on. They said, yeah, you can come with us, but you are never going back. And I said, okay. And I never went back. In this point, I was 26. I did not have a college degree. I did not have health insurance. I was going to have a baby in 4 months, and I was living in my parents' house. I ended up having to sell my car because I couldn't afford to pay for it. I had a really hard time finding a job. I had to go on state assistance. And the social worker I had when I went on state assistance made me feel like I was worthless. So again, I did this big, courageous, strong thing and left that relationship, and I was going to be a single mom. And, I was judged. I was judged for having to go on assistance. I was judged for having a baby without being married. I just felt judged. And at that point, I said, enough is enough. I'm going to be a social worker, and I'm never going to judge people like I have just felt judged. So I figured out exactly what I needed to do to get back into school. And, I'd failed out of the UW system, so I had to prove that I could do it. So when my son was 2 months old, I went back to school part-time. I took 2 classes, and I got 2 A's. One of them was a social work class, and they let me back into Whitewater. So it took me, I'm trying to think of the time. Took me 2.5 years, including that shortened semester, to graduate with my bachelor's degree. And I graduated with my bachelor's degree with honors after having a 1.1 GPA. I brought it up to graduate with honors. And I went on to grad school, got my super fancy, too expensive college master's degree. And I was going to work in child protection. That's what I was going to do. I was going to make a difference. And obviously I've done a lot of different things in social work. I've done child protection. I've done the investigation part. I've done the ongoing trying to get families back together. I've worked in residential with mentally ill veterans. I have done guardianship for almost 2 years about. I did a little over 2 years. I did guardianship. Now I'm working in adult protective services down in Illinois. So I've done lots of different things. And I will always be a social worker. That is just my mentality. The one thing that's great about being a coach and running my own business is that it makes it possible for me to be a social worker. I've gone through a lot of other things. When I met my husband, I was 30. We met online, and that time I was still pushing people away. I did the same thing to him. I pushed him away. I tried to make him leave me. I did horrible things to him. And I said, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I need to go see a therapist. And this was when I was like 31, I think. I went to therapy for the second time. I did go to some support groups when I was pregnant. When I moved back home after the DV relationship, I did do some support groups for domestic violence. I did do that. It was like an 8-week program. So I did complete that. But I had not had one-on-one therapy since I was a teenager. And I said, I need to go to therapy. And I went to therapy for a little over a year, really to process why I push people away. I don't do that anymore. I don't push people away. I trust people. I let people in. People that deserve to be let in. I still get a lot of guys on here creeping on here. Guys, I'm happily married. I'm only on here to build a business and inspire other ladies that have been through the same thing as me. Nothing personal. But I went to therapy for a little over a year. Obviously it worked out because we're married now. We have our daughter, Alexandra, and then Victoria, who is in heaven. Things were going great. Things were wonderful. My business was doing great. I was doing great. I was loving my job. But then, things come in threes, seriously. I ended up losing my job when I needed an extended maternity leave, which was fine because I wasn't going back to the job anyway. I was going to stay home with the twins. We were having twins. I was going to be able to stay home with them. I was making almost double my social work salary with my side hustle, with my coaching business. And, things were awesome. Things were great. I was going to get to stay home. I was living the dream. I was doing something I loved, and I was going to be able to be home with my kids, which was my ultimate dream, because I miss a lot of my son's childhood because, I was a single mom. I was in college for the first 2 years of his life, 2.5 years of his life. So I missed a lot, and I didn't want to do that with the other kids that I was going to have. And those of you that follow me, that when my daughter was 12 days old, she actually passed away. My daughter's twin sister, Victoria. When she was 6 days old, she had a heart attack at home, and she was not able to be resuscitated soon enough. Her brainstem died, and we had to make that decision to let her go to heaven. Obviously, losing a child is going to be the hardest thing to go through. But I said things come in threes, so it gets even worse. So I ended up with a horrendous uterine infection and was in the hospital. We had racked up all these medical bills, but luckily I had my coaching business, I had my team, I had my family, and we made it through. We paid off all those bills, and things were great. But in that process, I lost who I was. I'm just going to be honest. I lost who I was. I couldn't do anything. I was so depressed. And I didn't. Probably the time I really should have gone to therapy, and I didn't. We did go to family therapy a few times, but my son would never open up, and we just kind of stopped going. I don't really know why we stopped going, but we just stopped going. It was probably the time that I needed therapy the most. So I've never actually processed the loss of my daughter in therapy. So, I'm a social worker. I hugely push therapy if you have things going on in here, because, you can read all the books, you can do all the things, but if it's really, really serious, you guys got to go to therapy. So I'm at this point in my life where I know I have to go back to therapy. There's a lot of things that happen after the loss of my daughter that I just blocked out and refused to process. I'm being ultra honest with you guys, 100%. You can think that I'm a horrible coach. You'll never want to join my team. Whatever you want to think of me, that's fine. But there are people out there that are going to resonate with what I'm saying and are going to say, I'm with you. Let's do this together. But anyways, when I lost my daughter, I was working my business. So I thought, but I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't really running challenge groups. I wasn't really training my coaches. I wasn't really supporting people. I was posting on social media and making it think that I was la-di-da doing all these great things. But in truth, I was doing nothing. And if you just sit at home and do nothing for 18 months, your business is kind of going to fall. So I lost some really important people in my business. Obviously, I give them all the right that they left. I would have too. And you know what? It's okay, because you guys, you have to hit rock bottom before you can climb back up. So, 18 months after, when my daughter was 18 months old, I'd hit rock bottom. I was barely making enough to buy groceries for my family. I was racking up debt. I was not paying off my student loans. I wasn't able to save any money to pay taxes on my business. And I said, you know what? I have to go back to work. I have these $100,000 in student loans that I didn't really put a huge dent in before I couldn't go back to my job. I paid off about maybe $8,000 of my student loans. But a lot of money had been put away in savings, and a lot of that money had to be used for medical expenses, burial for my daughter, my own medical bills for when I had my infection. That's just kind of what happens when you don't have the greatest insurance, because my husband does not have the greatest insurance. When I was working in social work, we would always have my insurance, and that insurance was just a lot better. Guys, I know I'm up to 20 minutes. This is probably gonna be like a 30-minute video. Sorry. But I digress. So, I hit rock bottom. I said, you know what? I have to go back to work. And I did. I went back to work. I got a job as a supervisor. Things were great, but I was still struggling. I was struggling with remembering how I ran this business when I was working full time, because I was working full time and built this to $1,000 a week business. Beachbody does not guarantee any level of success or income. Each coach's income is based off the effort they put in and their individual skill. So I had built this business to making $1,000 a week while I was working full time. And yeah, at that time I only had one kid, one child, but he has type 1 diabetes. So it's not quite the same as just having one normal child. But I had built this business before, and when I went back to work, I just had a hard time remembering what I did that made me successful. And I'm still in that point. We're now 18 months after that, and I'm still at that point where I'm trying to figure out exactly the best way to run this business. And I'm still figuring out, guys. I still do trainings. I'm still trying to tweak things and trying to make things that are going to work for me. I think I finally have figured out some groups that I'm going to do that are going to really use my time best to help my clients, help my coaches, and I really think I've figured this out. But I don't know, for today I just had like a serious meltdown, and I don't know why, but like serious, like panic attack serious. So, obviously I've had issues with depression most of my life. I obviously had issues with depression after losing my daughter, and my gynecologist actually re-prescribed me my antidepressants, because I had been on antidepressants in my late 20s and early 30s. I had been on antidepressants, but I had been able to go off of them because when my son would go with his biological father for their weekend every other month, I would have anxiety attacks. And I talked to my doctor about them, and they prescribed me antidepressants. And, not everybody needs medication, but some people need medication. That is just the reality of life. Some people are just going to need it because of how their brain is wired. And I am one of those people that most of the time I need it because of how my brain is wired. And that is one main reason why I'm going to go back to therapy, is because I think I need to do something, because today I had my first panic attack in 11 years. Actually probably 10 years. My first panic attack in 10 years. About 8 years ago now, my son stopped going with his biological father. Sometimes diabetes is a blessing in disguise, and it made it so he would not take the diabetes education classes, so his visitation was stopped, and we've not heard from him since. And it's a good thing because he does not need to be in his life at all, and it's just toxic. And again, when he was with his dad, I would literally have panic attacks. And today, for the first time, I had another panic attack. I don't 100% know what it was, but all the things kind of compiled into one. I lost my job in August. I took about 6 weeks to find another job. And if you guys know about finding new jobs, you usually don't get a full paycheck for almost 4 weeks. So it was stressful. We were a one-income family again, and I was just so depressed in those 6 weeks. Like, I couldn't work out, I couldn't eat right, I couldn't work my business. When it's the time that I should have been pushing, I put so much pressure on myself. I've talked to my coach Barbie about this. I put so much pressure on myself that it was just pressure that there was no way I could live up to it. And I kind of just shot myself in the foot in those 6 weeks, because I put so much pressure on myself. It made me just not want to do anything at all. And again, I went back to that mentality for those 18 months where I didn't do anything. And I'm working my business because I'm posting on social media. I'm working out every once in a while. I'm posting my food every once in a while. I'm working my business, but I really wasn't. So in those 6 weeks, I had a really hard time. I actually do better when I'm not in like training groups or push groups or things like that. I seem to do better because it's just so much pressure. I was in another push group just recently, and it just tore me apart. It gave me anxiety, no full-out panic attacks, but it gave me anxiety, depression, where I'm so exhausted, don't want to get out of bed. And I was getting like 7 to 8 hours sleep, and I was still so exhausted and not wanting to get out of bed. So I have been really working on me probably since October 1st, when I started in Rachel Hollis's last 90 days. And it's really helping me really reflect. And it's taken me this 2 months to get at a place where I think I get it. And then today I have a panic attack, which again, I hadn't had one in 11 years. But, you know, I think it's just a culmination of everything that's happened since the last time I was in therapy, you know, losing my daughter, losing a job for the first time ever, having major money issues, having to rack debt back up, having to owe money to IRS because I didn't pay my taxes. I didn't pay enough to taxes, you know, so owing the IRS like $3,000, you know. Medical expenses, you know, again, my husband's insurance is not the greatest. He's a great job, but the insurance itself is not that great for having a child with type 1 diabetes. So the medical bills have been more expensive. You know, I've been trying to get on top of medical bills from earlier in the year, and it's just, you know, it's just a spiral, and it's stressful. And holidays and the anniversary of my daughter's death and just all the things, and just putting that pressure on me that I need to be at a certain place in my life. I need to be a certain place on my fitness journey. I need to be at a certain place in my business. I need to be. It's just so much pressure. How about not I need to be? How about I can be? I can be a successful coach. I can be a successful social worker that's helping people. I can be a great mom, a great wife, a great daughter. I can be great in all these things. I can be a great mentor. I can be a great inspiration. I can be a great motivator. I can be a great coach to my customers, a great coach and friend to my team. And I think I finally figured this out, but it's taken time, guys. It's taken a lot of time, and it is going to take therapy. To be 100% honest, I'm still working on myself. So yes, I try to show up every single day. Yes, I try to respond to messages every single day. Yes, I try to invite people to my groups every single day. Yes, I try to respond to your polls. Yes, I try to respond to your requests to chat more. I try to respond, but it just doesn't. It's not always perfect. And I'm the first one to admit that it's not always perfect, and I'm not always perfect, and I'm just doing the best I can do. So I'm going to continue to share this journey. So I need to basically wait until I get my new insurance December 1st. And I'm going to see if my primary care doctor will do a referral for me for a therapist that will be covered by my insurance, and kind of figure out what exactly is going to be covered. Because in the past I've had to pay privately for therapy before, and that's going to be a stretch just because I'm really trying to like dig in hard and pay off debt, you know, and really get all the other debt paid off so I can start tackling those student loans now that I have a pretty well-paying job. So yeah, sorry I rambled on for like 30 minutes, guys, but I hope this has given you guys more of an insight on who I am and why I'm not always the best at responding to messages right away. I do have all the notifications for Instagram and Facebook off on my phone, so I actually have to go in and look, and I only do that during my business hours. You know, with having a full-time job, with having 2 kids, a husband, you know, family close by, that's just, I have to schedule my time and set boundaries, and that's just the way it has to be. So I hope everybody has a fantastic Thanksgiving, even through all this crap going on in my head. I'm thankful. I am thankful that I found a job that, even though it's stressful, I love. I love the flexibility. I love my coworkers. I love my boss. I love my ability to help people. And I love that we got off at 2:30 today on Thanksgiving Eve and have 4 days off where I don't have to look at emails or phones or anything, except for I get to talk to you guys and I get to get people started, because Monday is prep week for my 6-week VIP mindset mentorship. Yes, say that 6 times fast. 6-week VIP mindset mentorship, where we are going to work on your guys' mindset. Still working on mine, but we're going to do it together. So if you're interested, reach out to me. Let's talk. If something I've said in this has resonated with you, I know a lot of you have said, me too. Yeah, me too. I'm going to go back and message you guys, and we'll chat and see how we can support each other on these hard times, which is the holidays. Especially when we've lost people, the holidays are hard because they should be here with us, right? That's how I feel, at least. So sorry to take up 30 minutes of your guys' night. If you watch the recording, thanks for watching, and I will catch you all later. Bye. Gotta shut it down everywhere.